I told you it weighed 1,400 pounds. You're not just going to pick this thing up. So that was one of the requirements that we had. Besides a secure space, we had to have a forklift. The platform that it's on, the channel iron platform, Dick designed and was welded up by the students at Las Positas College in a welding class. Okay? So we really had a lot of the community behind us. There's so many little things like that. Redwood Painting went to work now down in the warehouse. Shane Book out here, union painter, spent 3 days straight with Jasco paint remover stripping the paint by hand. No sandblasting allowed. For you guys that know about this stuff, no sandblasting because that will alter the surface of this historic artifact. You can barely tell, but it does. And so this was all stripped by hand. So with that, with the lead-based paint gone, all thrown away appropriately and so forth, we really could start to study the beacon the way we should. And we went to work. Here is, on the left there is beacon boy number 3. John Stewart, who came on board. He does a lot of the radio stuff. He's a ham. He also works for the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District today as a retirement job doing their communication stuff. But he's also a retired engineer from PG&E. He designed control systems. So he did all the electrical stuff. We're studying the beam. The light itself is about 40 feet away right now on the other side of the warehouse, just shining on a wall. Here's what it looks like straight on. The man in the photo there is another gem. Alan Frank is a PhD in optical physics. Can you believe that one? He spent his career at the lab. Some place in, where's that lab? Livermore. Really, he did. He worked at they had a big optical department in Livermore for a number of years, and that's what he did. When I first met him, I brought him a little piece of glass from the front cover. I didn't know the guy. And he looked at it and he said, "Oh yeah, let me think about this. That's probably," and he's telling me the kind of glass, and the next thing you know, he's doing trigonometry in his head. And I said, "You're our man." And on top of that, about appreciating historic stuff, Alan is a docent at the Niles Canyon Railway. So looking straight on here, you can see the light bulb is on. You could not take this picture if the light bulb were at full voltage. I think it's at like 12 or 15 volts right now instead of the full 120. The light is really bright. I mean, the heat on your hand is something you really feel. It's big. I didn't mention the whole thing is about 3 feet in diameter, and so the lampstand that's there is temporary. Dick fabricated that, and we had lots of discussions about whether or not we wanted to change the direction that the beam would shine. Maybe a little wider, maybe a little lower, maybe a little something. We did all sorts of they did all sorts of calculations to figure it out, and we did in fact move the filament about 3/4 of an inch on this new lampstand that John Stewart designed, and we built that with a new lamp base and a new halogen bulb. But the old base is still around. Someday it might actually become a display in the visitor center, but we do have it. Other restoration stuff had to happen. This little protractor thing shows the declination or the angle of incline. Since this beacon is up on a mountain, 3,849 feet, of course, you kind of want it to shine downwards a little bit. And in fact, originally it was, about 1.5 degrees downwards. Okay? But that stuff is brass. Boy, did it clean up nice. So you can see the old chipped paint and so forth, and then the beacon has been painted with primer. As soon as the old paint is off, it's going to rust. It was mostly, not completely, but mostly steel. And so we have a coat of primer on there, but you can see the brass work. The bearing was an interesting problem for us. you have to, this is a design flaw of the thing, you have to take the beacon apart to service the bearing. You have to lift that whole light up off its base to get to the bearing. So we did that. Again, Dick fabricated a thing so we could a cradle to lift up the light itself. And we looked at the bearing. Well, I got a bearing puller in my toolbox, but it's not that big. So back to Shell we went, and they came and looked at us. Oh, we can get that bearing off. And out they came, and in 5 minutes the bearing was off. You can see by my hand there the diameter. How many people had a bicycle that had new departure brakes back then? Remember, this bearing was made by New Departure. They've been out of business for 50 years, but it was made by New Departure. And the foreman of the machine shop at Shell said, "Let me take that back to my shop and see what I can do to get you another bearing." And Dick and I looked at each other and said, "That's the bearing. It's the only one in the world. That's the bearing." And Dick looked at me and was like, "What are we going to do here?" The guy called us a couple of hours later and said, "I got him on the shelf. Do you want sealed or unsealed?" And the next day he showed up with a sealed bearing for us. Can you believe that? And look at the size of that thing. I mean, you can see my hands there. The front cover that I mentioned with the glass slats, we had a lot of work to do on that because so many of them were broken, and we wanted to be original. We didn't know what kind of glass it was. And you know, I was surfing the net. I convinced myself that it was Pyrex, because Pyrex is heat resistant, and it had been invented by Corning Glass in 1915. I thought, this all fits. It wasn't. It was regular old glass. Red plain old window glass, 1/4 of an inch thick. But we couldn't take it apart because the gasket that holds the glass slats in is asbestos. So we had to call the hazmat guys in to deal with that. And then we had to cut all new ones. How many people know what a water jet cutter is? Well, what do you do? Cool. You know, if I took a garden hose and I just trained it on Dennis, he'd get wet, and that's about it, right? But if I put a nozzle at the end of the hose, it might hurt a little bit. How about if I made that nozzle about 3, I think it was, millimeters in diameter? How about if I put some sand in it? Now how about if I run it at, I'm serious, 60,000 pounds of pressure?
Put a hole. Divide that.
You see the glass being cut? It went through that. I mean, it's such a cliche, like butter. It went through that glass piece by piece by piece, and the whole thing was a nice big circle in 10 minutes. It was just amazing. And lo and behold, we ended up with a whole new circle of glass slats all ready to go. We got, and we have extra glass in case any of those break.
Why was it so many different slats instead of a solid piece?
Because that's the way it was back then, number one. But number two, so it could expand and contract. And that's where our man Alan came in too. And he was looking at that and saying, well, let's see, probably gets down to 20 degrees out there, but on a really hot day it'd be 110 degrees. And so let's see, the coefficient of expansion of borosilicate glass is going to be about, he's going, well, let's see, you know, if it's 3 feet, the big pieces are 3 feet across, and so they need to be able to expand by 4 millimeters. And we went, whoa! And he pulled that all out of his head. So we have the right guys. Paint was a big issue for us. You know, we had redwood painting, of course, but we didn't know what color the beacon was. We had the paint on the beacon analyzed for color. You know, you can go to Kelly Moore, but we had it done officially and all that. And we had 8 different colors of paint that were on that beacon, including international orange, the same as the Golden Gate Bridge. So we really didn't know what color it was. And this was our photo. Big help. And we're a week from painting. We're going to be putting this beacon up on October 22nd, I think it was. We took it down in June, we were ready to put it back up in October after working all summer. And we still didn't know what the color was. And we're talking to the historians up in Sacramento, and they said, I said, well, this is the best we've got, and we're just about ready to paint it. And I got a call from Jeanette Schultz, the historian. She said, I found a photo. Color. Oh, the reproduction from the projector. Yes, this is a color photo, and it's taken at exactly the same time. That's the same truck as in that other photo, but this one's color, and very clearly it was silver when it was originally put up there. So, out of the blue, now we know it's going to be silver. And we started saying, well, what color is silver? And I said, Jeanette, why don't you walk out to the parking lot and choose a silver car? Done. This is Rex Bothell, the warehouseman. He has a concrete finishing business, for polishing concrete in stores and so forth. And it was in his warehouse, the famous undisclosed location. Why was it undisclosed? It was just so we wouldn't have people coming and visiting, because it was Rex's business. And Rex had a great story to tell too. He grew up here in San Ramon, and he was there in 1964 when the beacon was lighted by Admiral Nimitz. He had a doodle bug. Remember the little mini bike things back in the 60s? He had one of those, and he tied an extra gallon of gas onto the gas tank. Of course, didn't tell his parents, and rode to the summit of Monte Diablo and watched Admiral Nimitz light the beacon. He was 11. And even better, I think it was 2 weeks later, he with his father went to some military thing, Veterans Day, I don't know what it was. And who was there but Admiral Nimitz? And he walked up to Rex and said, weren't you that boy that was up on Monte Diablo? Busted. That's correct. So Rex was just, if there was another beacon boy, it would have been Rex. He was so generous with his time and space and so forth. Just great. So this is October in the afternoon sun. We brought the beacon actually home to my house for the night. No, it does not fit in the garage on a trailer. And at dawn the next morning, up the mountain we went. Crane came along, of course, the van full of the riggers, and again with the emotion and interest and media and so forth. Some of you have met Chuck Kohler. We were just talking about Chuck a minute ago. And he's talking with Bert Bogardus, and Bert Bogardus is a retired ranger from Monte Diablo State Park. And Bert was the ranger that took care of the beacon from the middle of the 80s until we did this project, and he helped us in numerous ways on this project also. Super guy, Bert Bogardus. So, you've all seen owner's manuals, reassembly is a reverse of disassembly. Same thing, right? Lift it up, set it down, we made sure it was going to fit. And we call this the bird cage, the steel structure of ribs that supports the aircraft obstruction light. That's the red blinky thing that's up at the very tip top. That went up. Anybody want Bobby Wilkes' job? He's up there standing on the railing, as you can see, and if he decided to do a backflip, he would have landed 5 stories down on concrete. But that's what they do, right? So we had it arranged. We actually had an extension cord on it. So as soon as again, the media were there, our Pearl Harbor veterans were there, staff were there, and so on and so on and so on. We were able to light it immediately after setting it down, and the beacon is back up, and it will be lighted again on December 7th.